You guys just you keep coming around. I just keep hearing about you guys.
And I might need to tell Ryan to cut that up a little bit and just put it in my audio for my phone.
First of all, I love the game. I had a passion to play the game, not only football, but I love the game of golf. And what it lends to a person and the friendships you develop on the golf course.
It's been a pleasure being on the drop. I wish you guys all the best down the road.
As someone like you have that golf itch like a lot of us do.
I keep track of you, and you are moving. You are on the move.
So listen, I'm a big New Jersey golf guy. You're very kind, Mike, and you too, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be on just a couple of Jersey boys here talking about something we love. All the best. I really enjoyed it.
What's up, Drop Pod listeners? You can check out new episodes of the Drop Podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Follow and listen along.
This episode is sponsored by Gimme Cocktails. Hey, golfers. Just because golf season is over in New Jersey doesn't mean you can't enjoy a taste of the course. Meet Gimme Cocktails, your favorite drink for any season. Gimme Cocktails is a family-owned business proudly based right here in Monmouth County, New Jersey. They've perfected the blend of premium vodka with either pineapple or lemonade iced tea, enhanced with a touch of effervescence. It's all natural, 7% alcohol, gluten-free, and the ultimate refresher whether you're winding down after a long day or gearing up for your next adventure. Find Gimme Cocktails at any Total Wine location, ShopRite in Middletown, Circus Liquors in Red Bank, and Huddy's in Colts Neck. Whether you're celebrating a win, unwinding after a busy day, or dreaming of next year's tee times, Gimme Cocktails is the perfect drink companion. And don't forget, drink local. When you sip Gimme Cocktails, you're supporting a New Jersey-owned company dedicated to quality and community. Follow them on Instagram at gimme_cocktails or visit gimmecocktails.com to learn more. Cheers to drinking local. Gimme Cocktails. Pick it up. This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Coulott.
What's up, Drop Pod people? Welcome back. It is Interview Thursday. Mike and I are excited to share with you our guest for this week. He is the Director of Instruction at Forsgate. This week's guest is Tony Perla. Mike, can we call him a silent assassin? He's a rather low-key, mild-mannered golf instructor. By day and by night, a superhero. No, I got a little cross between Superman there. But Tony's definitely a quiet, reserved kind of guy. But I was able to see Tony give an instruction when I went to an event last year. Watching him break down the golf swing and what he's trying to do and how he's trying to teach it is really a thing of beauty, Mike. He's very good at breaking it down, talking it into a way that you can understand it. And he even said in this lesson he was given, if one way doesn't work, I'm going to try another way. Saying the same thing in a different way. So he's not, sometimes you go to somebody and they're like, hey, just flip the wedge. And you go, okay, you swing, and it's like, no, you got to flip it. It's like, okay. And you try something different. It's like, no, you got to flip it. Okay, clearly I'm not getting what flip it means. So Tony's given a different way about it. He's been in golf for a long time. He's got a great Arnold Palmer story. It was really a pleasure to have him on, and looking forward to getting out to Forsgate and getting to see him again this summer. So,
yeah, I think the best way to describe Tony Perla is a storytelling machine. I think his Rolodex of stories goes deep. And to your point of the Arnold Palmer story, I think that's one that people are just going to sit there, relax, listen to, and smile and be like, wow, that is a very unreal story. But the way Tony presents it and shares it just puts a smile on your face, knowing that like one of the greatest players in the game did something like that.
Yeah, no doubt. So without further ado, we're going to send you to our interview with Tony, Director of Instruction at Forsgate. Cheers.
All right, so today's guest is the Director of Instruction at Forsgate Country Club, Tony Perla. Tony, thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to have you, Tony.
Yeah, Tony, your golf course is something that Ryan and I have talked a lot about. He got to experience it in a kind of a different format. But before I even get into Forsgate and the whole history about it, let's educate the audience about your background, how you got into this game, when you decided to make it a career, and talk a little bit about that.
We're going to go way back. I'm going to be 38 this coming year. So
You're a young
I guess
buck.
golf.
You're a young buck. I'm the old
That's what
guy
they
in the room,
say,
pal.
but the injuries keep piling up here. I don't know. But it's probably going back to, 35 years ago. That's when a club was first put in my hand. And I was very fortunate to grow up with a lot of golf professionals around me. My father was a golf professional and a touring professional. My uncle was highly regarded in the Philadelphia section as one of the best playing professionals as well as golf professionals. So I had that right in the family. What most people don't realize is that my dad and my uncle are not of the same family. So my dad married my mom, whose brother was also a golf professional. So we have it from two different sides of the family. So, when I was really young, I was never really given formal instruction. I was like, they said, here's a club, figure it out and go hit it. And as I started to get a little bit older, I started playing more and more sports. And sports was my thing. I mean, golf was almost second in nature. As I started to get a little bit older, I was super competitive. No matter what I played, whether it was ping pong or tennis or hockey or whatever it was, I did not want to lose. So I guess that kind of translate into golf as a professional. But I really wanted to be a basketball player. That was like my number one dream and goal. And that's what I thought I was going to be, because I actually thought I was really good. And it all came to fruition when I was pretty good friends with Gerald Henderson Jr. His father played in the NBA, longtime Celtic and 76er, and they grew up in the Philadelphia area. And when Gerald and I were about 12 or 13 years old, after a golf tournament, I said to Gerald, hey, come over to my house. So he came over to the house and I was like, hey, let's play basketball. Because I'm thinking yeah, I'm good. I can play basketball with Gerald. He dunked on a 10-foot net at 13. And I played 1-on-1. I think I lost 10-1. And I was like, okay, maybe basketball may not be my thing. Which is, oddly enough, Gerald was like, I want to be a professional golfer. I'm like, oh, really? And his father said, nope, you're going to Duke.
Yep.
You're going to learn to play basketball. You're going to be in the NBA. And I think Gerald made the right decision there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of when I decided maybe basketball isn't going to be my thing. And then that's when I really started to get formal instruction. Like I said, even though I grew up with professionals in the family, they kind of didn't really, they taught me, but they didn't stand over me. They never stood over. My dad never stood behind me. And, obviously we didn't have TrackMan back then. So there was not staring at TrackMan numbers or anything. So it was more or less go figure it out. And as a kid, I would set up a golf course in our yard. We had a pretty big yard front and back. And I would literally make up holes in the yard from front to back. I had 9 holes, and they were 60 to 100 yards long max. Hitting it over the house. Not really well received by the parents sometimes, but hey, they put the trust in me, and then I actually never broke a window, so that was pretty good.
Did you tell Bryson this story?
Yeah, you did the
What's
Bryson
that?
before
Yeah,
the Bryson.
it's somewhat similar to that. Well, of course, growing up, I was using Balata golf balls, so they're a lot softer then.
There you go. That's old school. The New Jersey Golf Foundation, the charitable arm of the New Jersey PGA section, is committed to positively impacting lives and communities through the game of golf. With a focus on 3 core pillars: youth, military, and special needs, and led by PGA of America golf professionals, the New Jersey Golf Foundation hosts a dynamic lineup of annual programs for all levels and abilities and a series of special events to support programming. Signature youth programs include golf in schools and PGA Junior League, while military programming is highlighted by PGA Hope, helping our patriots everywhere, a weekly rehabilitative golf program that is saving the lives of military veterans. The foundation is also a strong advocate for inclusion through its support of Special Olympics New Jersey Golf and L's for Autism. To support programs and special events, please visit njgolffoundation.org or call 732-465-1212. That's njgolffoundation.org or 732-465-1212.
And then I kind of taught myself how to hit shots. And then once I got to that teenage era, that's when my dad was like, okay, maybe we need to have somebody kind of look after him, show him golf swing. I kind of attribute my upbringing by 4 influential people in my life. Obviously, my father and my uncle are the 2 most. My grandfather, and my dad's best friend, Joe Dad, who was also a PGA professional. All 4 of those guys looked after me like I was their son. And, I still have my uncle and Joe to this day, and we talk all the time. So they kind of, got me going. And once I got good enough, I, got into high school and just out of nowhere won the conference championship as a freshman, the individual conference championship. So I was the first and only freshman to ever do that. I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't heard anything. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm like, okay, I might be okay at this. And then I won it again the next year. And then what do people start talking about? Winning the Grand Slam, winning it all 4 years. I didn't do that, but, I played well enough and got to states. Unfortunately, in states, I was only, I think, 2 shots off the lead going into the final round, and it absolutely downpoured. So instead of postponing it, they just called it. So I got stuck where I was. I'm like, wow, that's really going to hurt me in the recruiting process here. So instead of finishing maybe winning in the state, I had to settle for tied for 8th, 2 shots behind the lead.
Oh my God.
In high school golf, 2 shots is nothing.
Yeah.
So
and even still, you could think about another round. Like you could have posted another, even if you go subpar, your numbers as a whole would look better. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I kind of got the short end of the stick on that one, but there's really nothing I could do about it. So, I just had to take that and live with it. But, I had a lot of success, in the junior PGAs of Philadelphia area. I won a lot of junior events. It was rare that I didn't medal, which was really reassuring. And, as I got older, that's when I kind of knew that golf was going to be my life. And after my sophomore year of high school, I pretty much stopped all sports because I wanted to make sure that nothing happened that prohibited me from potentially getting looked at for college. So, I was able to go and visit a couple schools. I wanted to go somewhat south to get, play all year. Even if I wasn't playing in tournaments, I just wanted to practice all year. And when the college recruiting process started, I didn't really have an agenda of where I wanted to go until I visited with University of Central Florida. I wanted to be a Golden Knight, and that was like my dream. And I met with Nick Kleinard, who was the coach at that time, and he said, "Look, we have 2 spots available. We're going to take a look at you. Send us what you've done." And I did, and unfortunately, I was the 3rd guy of those 2 spots. So my dream was kind of crushed. because I'm an Orlando guy. I spent half of my life in Orlando, and that was just crushing to go through that. And the same thing happened with the University of South Carolina. I met with Puggy Blackman and tried to get that set up, and same thing. And so I'm like, wow, it's the two schools that I kind of wanted to go to didn't really give me a shot. And I get this phone call from this NAIA school, and I'd never heard of the NAIA. And they said, "Hey, we've heard about you. We want to look at you." And I'm like, "Well, I've never heard of this school. I've never heard of the NAIA. What is this?"
Yeah.
So they told me it was Northwood University, and I'm like, Northwood, where? Well, I'm not going north.
Yeah.
I want to go south. And they said, well, yeah, we're in West Palm Beach. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, that's all right then. So they said, hey, look, why don't you come down for a visit and we'll talk. So my dad and I flew down there the summer before my senior year of high school, and we met the coach then. He's actually passed on since then, but I remember meeting the coach, and he brought us to lunch. Didn't even go to the school yet, and slaps down an offer on the table before he's even seen me hit a shot, full ride. So my dad takes the papers and he goes, "You're signing it." And I'm like, "Well, I don't even know like what." He goes, "You're in Florida, you're in Palm Beach, you're going to play all year long, you're going to do it." I'm like, "All right." So then afterwards, he's like, "Let's go tee it up." So I'm so nervous at this point. I'm like, this guy just handed over the keys to the scholarship to me. He bankrupted the whole golf team by giving me the amount of money.
I'll tell you, that's like a big, like, don't they, golf scholarships, they like each team gets like one or two, so they usually like divide it up. So for you to get a full one is a big deal.
Yeah, it's I definitely kind of screwed some people on that. One of my best friends and we still talk about that to this day, how they didn't get a lot of money. I'm like, well, I got my whole tuition paid for, so it was pretty close. So we're teeing it up, and I'm so nervous now. What do? I snap hook the first tee shot right into not into a hazard, but into a red penalty area, and I'm like, oh man, what am I? Chipped it out, had to go out sideways. So I'm like 110 yards. What do? I just hole it right from there. And I was like, yep, I'm good. It was a good birdie.
Routine
Like Tiger,
birdie.
hello world. Hello world.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, it's not, good thing the scorecard doesn't have pictures on it, because that would have been ugly. But that's kind of what got me going. And, in 2010, after I graduated, I didn't think I was good enough to be professional, but with professionals in the family, I was kind of convinced, like, hey, just play locally and try to make some money, work. So I went to work for my uncle at Radnor Valley Country Club. That's really where I was brought up, right there on the main line, Villanova. And he really taught me so many things, not really so much golf, but it's how to handle golf, pressure, mental. That was the name of his game. He was so good under pressure, and he was so good mentally. So I really picked that up, and took me a little while to kind of get my feet wet. I was just working as an assistant pro. Come November, I was done, and I packed up and went to Florida every winter and started playing and practicing more. And I heard about these mini tours, this Florida golf tour. It's probably changed names 10 times by now. So I started signing up for them. They're not cheap. They were pretty expensive. They were like, the entry fees were like $400 or $500 a pop. And if you didn't play well, even if you played well, you lost money. And what their slogan was, "Oh, you gain the experience." I'm like, yeah, but I also lose the money. So I'm not sure that was great, but I was able to kind of break through and win one of those. And, I felt like I was on top of the world. And then I came home, still working at Radnor Valley. I started winning section events, and that was really important. And it came time where I knew I was good enough to compete locally, and I wanted to think about competing at the higher level. So I started doing Monday qualifiers, and I got 2 Monday qualifiers, quite a bit. I unfortunately never made it into a tournament, but I was able to get to about 4 or 5 Mondays. And I'll never forget, I flew to Lafayette, Louisiana. I was Monday qualifying for the Zurich. And if you've never been to Lafayette, Louisiana, you're not missing anything. It is it is a different world in that part of the country. So I go, and this is what really hit me. I played decent. I shot 60, I think it was 69 or 68. I forget what the par was, but I was 3 under. And I didn't think I was going to make it, but I knew, like, okay, well, I'm under par. I had a chance. 62 had to play off to get in.
Oh my God.
And that was like, wow, okay, I'm really in a different ball game right now. So, and same thing happened at the Valspar. I got to the Monday qualifier and I shot 68. I remember this one, and 63 played off to get to the final spot. So if you didn't shoot 62, you weren't in. If you shot 63, you weren't in. You had to play off.
Oh my
So
God.
that hits hard.
Mhm.
And that's where I kind of made the decision to reside, to kind of just staying like local and playing locally, and then maybe trying to get into the PGA Championship or US Open, just do things like that. And my career kind of took off when I had to make a change from Radnor Valley. My uncle was great. I could have worked for him my whole life, but I had to do something for my career. So I had applied to be an assistant at Philadelphia Cricket. Now, this was like a huge step up for me because this was nothing that what I was comfortable with, and it was completely out of my comfort zone. And initially, I wasn't hired. And, I was okay with that because I had a good job to go back to. I remember I was in Orlando and I woke up one morning. I'm like, man, I feel like something's going to break here because I had applied for several things, and I wasn't really getting anything because I feel like I was viewed more as a player instead of a golf professional. And in Jim Smith fashion, 6:45, I get a phone call, AM. Hey, man, things happen for a reason. We want to bring you aboard. Are you in? Right, 6:45. Just woke up. I was like, yeah, Jim, I'm in. When do I start?
I'm in.
So later on that evening, he had one of the assistants call, and they said, "Hey, Jim just wanted to make sure if you were." I was like, "I told Jim at 6:45 I was in, and I want to know when I start." So I made the move to cricket, and that really kind of propelled my career, and that really kind of made me um, figure out what I wanted to be as a golf professional. Did I want to run a club, or did I want to do something else? And I really found that I was so much better off at teaching golf. And that's what led me, Reed Lansinger worked there with me, and we grew up playing junior golf together. So we have a long history with one another. Reed's from the Villanova area as well. So Reed had said to me, "Hey man, I have a couple programs that I need run up here at Canoe Brook. Like, if you want to make a move and get your feet wet, come up here and run these programs. And then from there, you can kind of like go and venture out and do, the director of instruction thing." And that's how I made the move to Canoe Brook. And, I got an email from Carolyn Andrews at Forsgate, just out of the blue. Out of the blue. And she said, "Hey, I have an opening for director of instruction. I haven't even opened the position. Do you want it?" And bam, that's how I ended up where I was. And just kind of doing things professionally and as an instructor to get better every single year. And that's where we are today.
So how many years were you at Philly and Canoe Brook before coming to Forsgate? And how many years is this at Forsgate?
So I'm going in my 5th year at Forsgate.
Okay.
I was at Canoe Brook for 2, and I was at Cricket for, I think, 2.5.
Okay.
So I made the jumps pretty quick, but I knew what I wanted to do from there. So and when the opportunity knocked, I had to walk through the door.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's, if you're shooting, hey, I played pretty well, shot 67, and to get in is 62. That really is gonna put you in the right. Okay, well, maybe this isn't gonna work out, so let me do something else. And again, the door presented itself, so you walk through it.
Exactly. It's such a hard game, and even when you play well, you can lose, and it's very humbling knowing that you can give it your all and you can play the best round of golf that you've ever had and still not win.
Mhm.
You know, it's just one of those games that even if you play your best career round ever, let's say you shoot 62, well, you're still thinking about, oh, I actually could have shot 60. We're so hard on ourselves anymore. That's just the way this game works.
Well, those are numbers I don't usually mess with. But yeah, I go, yeah, I shot 80 today. I could shot 78. But yeah, I understand the sentiment.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about Forsgate specifically. Obviously, you spent, a decent amount of time there in the last, few years. What's a membership like there? What's a normal day like for you there? Let's talk a little bit about the golf courses. I know Ryan got to experience them. I don't think I've played the Banks course since I was like a junior playing a New Jersey PGA Tour event or New Jersey PGA event back in the day. And I'm dating myself here because I'm the old buck here in this group. So tell me a little bit about the golf courses, your job, and all that.
Yeah, so the golf course is great. They've recently lengthened it. The membership that we have, it's big. We are busy. I think we're only closed 2 days a year, Christmas and today. So New Year's Day. We are nonstop. And I call it like a laid back membership. And they're just, ladies and gents who just want to come out, play golf, hang out, have some drinks afterwards, and go home. That's pretty much what we do, and that's great. That's the kind of membership that I like. We're pretty close knit. We all know each other. My days, weekends get a little bit more hectic. Weekdays we kind of spread some things out a little bit, but then we start introducing programs, everything else, so it starts to cut into lesson time. But I never say no to a lesson to anybody. But the golf course itself it's a challenge. It's what I call a second shot golf course. Plenty of room off the tee. You can hit it almost anywhere. But the greens are so big and they're so undulated that you have to hit your ball in the right spot in order to have a decent look at a putt. And if you miss the green, you're in big trouble because I think our average depth of our bunkers is about 10 to 12 feet below the surface.
There's some mountains
So
there.
yeah, you're down there. I mean, the eighth hole is reminiscent of the 16th hole at PGA West with that bunker on the left of that par five. So that's what you see a lot of at the Banks course, and that's what that's the defense of the golf course. You have to be pinpoint with your iron play. It's forgiving off the tee, but we still don't see scores go that low there. Even when we have some tour event or not tour events like local events or state open qualifyings, you never really see someone take it like 8 9 under. It's only like 3 at most. So it is a challenge, even though it is for getting off the tee. But it's a great golf course. It's in good shape, and recently did a renovation on the driving range, so it's a big, huge driving range now. You can hit it about 280, 290, but there's it's probably about 40 or 50 yards across, which is pretty big. So it's a great spot, and we're situated right between New York and Philly. It's kind of a really neat location. So we're at the southern end of the Jersey section, but not inconvenient to get to or anything. And it's been a great place for the past 4 years. I'm looking forward to the fifth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't, I remember when Ryan played it in the summer and we were kind of going back and forth and I'm like, I think I've played it. And then I was trying to, recall some things. And then I started doing some real digging. And I was like, when I was younger, there was a ton of events that were always held there for junior golf. So I know that that country club is very big on advocating for junior golf, which is always a nice thing to see. them opening their doors, a private golf course, letting kids like, me back in the day come and play and experience it. And then when Ryan sent me some pictures of all like the renos of the bunkers and are surrounding the bunkers, I was like, holy hell, this is a spot that come 2025, we got to get to.
Yeah. We'll have to bring you guys out. It's a good spot. I mean, we're 36 holes. The Palmer course is a little bit different, a little bit more tree lined. You get two completely different golf courses. The Manx course is wide open with super deep bunkers and very challenging greens. The Palmer course is tighter, with lots of water on most of the golf holes. There's water, small greens. So you get two really distinctive golf courses that really change the way you play. I mean, I think in the Palmer course, I only hit 4 drivers, which are the 4 par fives. Other than that, I'm scaling back a little bit. Whereas on the Banks course, I'm pretty much hitting driver almost every hole.
Yeah, I've been trying to. I'm actually on Google Maps, and I'm trying to think of the hole. Is 10 a par 3
On the
on the
which
Banks course?
Banks course. No, it's a challenging par 4.
Okay.
I actually think it's one of the harder holes.
It is that the one? There was one where my playing partner was in the bunker, and it might have been that hole. He was on the right-hand side of the green. Green's a little elevated. Going back to your point about how the bunkers are the defense, and I mean, he looked like, I was just on the other side of the fairway and looking at him, and he looked like a little tiny ant in this enormous bunker. And he's like, he'd have to hit out sideways because you have to hit it. He was at the very base. It must have been 25 feet up that he had to get it up onto the green. And it was somewhere on the back there. I feel like it might have been 10 or 11, something like that. But yeah, to your point, it's those bunkers are the defense. And I didn't get to see the Palmer course, but everyone had said it is very different. You can see a lot of differences between the two, which is why the membership kind of likes being there. They can go out and play two very distinct and different kinds of golf there.
Yeah, I mean, our 17th hole on the Banks course, if we're talking the tips, we're playing the back tees. They put the pin in the front, it's about 190 yards. If they put in the pin in the back, it's about 265. That's how big the green is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big the green is.
Oh my God.
It's enormous. And it's got a big trench in the middle of it. So it's like 3 tiers. You have the front part of the green, huge trench, goes way up to the back part of the green. I've hit everything there from 7-iron to 3-wood from the same tee. So and then if you miss the green, you're in those bunkers. So now you're looking at, an impossible second shot. So that's what I said. It's an iron shot golf course. It's difficult to get the ball close to some of those hole locations. Our 7th hole, which is the one I think, Ryan, you might be talking about, is a par 3, kind of goes downhill. If you land it on the middle of the green, it goes over. You have to land the ball in the front of the green. And if you miss the green, you're looking at 5. A lot of the members call it, the Shores par 5 in Middlesex County. So, it's more often you make 4 or 5 there than you do 3, or never really 2. So it's just one of those things where you got to really be dialed in. And needless to say, I give a lot of bunker lessons.
I could use one of those. But I got another question for you. Like, obviously being a very good player and early on being recognized as more of a player than maybe a teaching pro or director of instruction, what's been the evolution now of your game and the competition side of you being out there? Because, we hear the stories from a lot of different people in your position about like how the game and the practicing aspect now takes a step back to the teaching aspect or the running of the business side of things. Are you still able to get out there and compete? Are the expectations still somewhat the same, or did you taper them back? Like, explain a little bit about like where your game is at.
I never take a step back. That's just the mentality. I built an athletic golf swing into my game. And I would say going through college and the early part of my professional career, I knew how to hit the ball. I could hit it long. somewhat straight,
Straightish.
but I didn't know how to play. There's a really big difference between hitting golf ball and knowing how to play golf. And I'll give you a quick story. I was hitting balls at Bay Hill one time, and I'm hitting on the very end of the range. Roped off next to me, you could not touch. That was Mr. Palmer's spot. So I'm like, well, whatever. I'm not going to go in his spot, but the only spot open on the range was right there. So I'm hitting balls, and my dad's out there because we just played in the Bay Hill shootout and played pretty good, but I'm still like, this is when I'm still trying to like feed my way into the mini tours and stuff. All of a sudden, this cart comes up and out pops Arnold. And I noticed him. I take a peek out of my right eye. I'm like, oh man, there's Arnold Palmer. What am I going to do? Arnold walks up to his spot right next to me, starts hitting balls. And I'm like, oh boy, what do I do? Where's driver? Give me my driver. I'm not hitting an iron. I'm not going to send one right up his rear end. There's no way. So all of a sudden, Arnold turns around. He and my dad knew each other from the senior tour. That's my dad played on the senior tour for about 5 years. So they knew each other really well, pretty good friends. And Arnold's just standing there with his hand on his hip and he's watching me just one after the next, after the next. And he can tell that I knew he was watching, and I've never been more nervous in my life.
Because my hands were doing this.
Yeah, that's why I was like, give me a driver like now, because I know I can't shank now. I can hit the driver way offline, but I can't shank it at least.
Yeah.
So, I'm just popping these drivers, and I'm swinging hard because I'm nervous, and I'm hitting these things about 320, 330 into the shed behind the range. And Arnold's standing there with his hands on his hip, and he's just watching each one. And he says to my dad, these damn kids, they hit it so far nowadays, I can't stand it. And I was like, yeah, sorry, I'll scale back. He says, nope, hit it again. So I hit it again. And he goes, do another one. And then he told me like one or two things about my grip and something else with, coming down through impact. And I tried it and it started working out. And he said, let's go to the locker room. So he watched me hit balls for about 20 minutes. And we go into the locker room. He gets an Arnold Palmer. Now, if you know what a real Arnold Palmer is, it is not what we think it is. And he said, what are you trying to do? This and that. He wanted to learn about me. And, we had a good conversation and we ended up all going to dinner that night, which was really cool. We went, just some local place in, right there near Bay Hill. And when you're with Arnold Palmer, it's like you get a police escort wherever you go. And when he walks in there, it doesn't matter if the restaurant's full, it's open. So it was really cool to kind of just sit down and talk to Arnold about stuff that you wouldn't even think to talk about with golf. And what he had told me was more of how to think and how to compartmentalize a lot of my issues. So when I got home, I took his advice and I actually went to a sports psychologist, Dr. Rosenberg out of Philadelphia. And he really kind of messed with my mind a little bit and he changed the way that I thought my way around the golf course. And that's kind of where I actually figured out how to play golf, not just how to hit a golf ball. So that moment in time, that evening and day with Arnold was so important to me. And that's kind of what propelled me to get, new goals and everything else. So, even as a teaching professional, I still have goals for myself and I'm not going to rest until the goals are accomplished. And even when they are, I'm probably going to create new ones. So I still want to play in the PGA Championship. That's my number one goal. And, I got a chance here coming up this April, going down to the Club Pro and everything else. So, but you never really take a step back as a competitor, especially someone who was as competitive as I was as a kid. Just, you never want to lose. and you always want to do something to make yourself better. So it never stops, honestly.
No, those juices never leave you. Those competitive juices
No,
are always flowing. It's trying to find a way to, like you said, it's ping pong. It might be cards. It might be whatever it is. You don't want to lose.
never want to lose.
So Tony, I got one other question here to kind of put a bow on this bad boy. Is being a guy that's been basically born and bred in this New Jersey, Philadelphia area, but I'm going to keep this reins to New Jersey only. If you
Mhm.
got an invite to one golf course, and you got to ask the missus for the get out of jail free card because I just can't pass this up. But it can't be Pine Valley and it can't be your home golf course. What location is that in New Jersey?
There's so many I could go to.
I know. Don't
You
be
know,
like Ryan and give me like 1 through 5. I want to know that number one spot.
you know, having the wife that I do, she is so supportive in everything that I've done with golf. She honestly, she lets me travel to play golf. She lets me kind of do what I want with golf. There's really never any argument. She knew, going into it that this was kind of my life. And without that, I couldn't really do anything that I do. So she wouldn't nor or less give me a hall pass, but she knows that there's one golf course that I would want to play all the time. It would be Galloway.
My guy.
Galloway.
My guy. That's what I'm talking about, Tony. That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. I knew this
yeah.
interview was phenomenal from the get-go. My guy.
Mike,
Educate
lo-
Ryan on why.
Mike
Educate
loves it there.
Ryan why Galloway is so damn good. Please.
Galloway is one of those places. First of all, I love being on the water. Being able to play as much golf as I have. Some of my favorite golf courses are Cypress Point, Pebble Beach, Torrey Pines. All those courses I got to play. Some of which were on my honeymoon. So that was very interesting. But I love golf courses on the water. It could honestly be a toss up between that and Atlantic City, but Galloway takes the cake. And Jason Lamp down there is always welcomes me and makes me feel at home. And it's a great golf course. It's a great setting, and it's not even so much about the golf course itself. From where I live, the drive down there is so beautiful. Driving through the pines in New Jersey, I haven't seen the devil yet, but driving through the pines is, on a nice sunny day is it's so worth it to do it. It only takes me about 55 minutes to get there, and it's just beautiful. And then when you hit the parkway, you come right out over onto the bay, and it's like, oh, here we are. We're at the beach finally. And then you get to go play a great golf course, and it's always in spectacular shape. It's never bad. I mean, the slowest I've ever seen the greens is like 11. So it's just one of those places where no matter what, she'll always let me go. Like, hey, you want to go play with your friends? You're going to go play. Yeah, Galway.
Okay.
That's what I'm
That's
talking about.
Mike loves that place. He talks about it nonstop.
It's
Uh,
awesome.
I want to know what your favorite course is, and it's not my. I have a different ending question, but what's your favorite course in that Philly area? We talked about being growing up in the Villanova kind of area and that kind. What's like? We don't want to go too far into Pennsylvania, but in that, if New Jersey were to bend out a little bit, what's that? What's your favorite course out in that area?
It's cricket all day.
Which course
I
of cricket?
Wissahickon,
Okay.
the championship course.
Okay.
It's and that's not a biased opinion because I work there. I've played Marion several times. I've played Aronimink several times. I guess those are the three that you'd probably look at. Philly Cricket Wiss has so much character. It's never boring and it's challenging. I think they have the truest there this
Yeah.
May, the old Wells
Yeah.
Fargo. So to me, I think Dan Mutersman is one of the best superintendents I've ever seen. I mean, the golf course, even either golf course, if you go there in February, it looks like it's Augusta National. It's unbelievable. It's so good. But it's also one of those places too that whenever I step on property, I have a vibe. And I know even if I'm not playing great golf, that I can go there and kind of turn things around. So it holds a special place in my heart. But no biased opinion. I think it is the best golf course there. It's right up there with Marion, even though it doesn't get ranked, but it's still a top 100 course. It's just, it's not as high as Marion, but I think it's just as good, if not better.
There's a lot of those courses that don't get ranked and should be in the rankings. That's
100%.
so as Mike and I kind of talk about, golfers tend to be a little quirky by nature, and we talk about like all of the habits or superstitions that we all have, and as someone who plays competitively, you talked about getting into the PGA and that sort of thing. What are some of your I'm not going to call them quirks, we'll call them habits or superstitions that you might have before you go tee it up for some competition?
So I got a couple things.
Okay.
So before a round, if you ever watch me warm up, there's two things that I do in particular. One's on the range, one's on the putting green. You won't see me hit 3-footers or 4-footers, short putts. You won't see me do that. Why? So again, I'm more about mental game and mental preparation. You miss one of those, you start thinking about it, right? So I kind of live in like the 12 to 15-foot range when I'm warming up and some lag putting. So I never really hit short putts because if you start missing a couple of them, then that starts bleeding into your brain. I do all that prep work before the tournament. So before the tournament starts, I stick to like mid-range to longer-ish putts because I don't want those lasting images of short putts missed. Same thing with chipping. I won't go and chip right before a tournament. I'll do all that prep work before the day actually begins. But because if you don't hit good chip shots, and you start thinking about it. So
That's a good
then,
point. I
I
like
have
that.
that, and then on the driving range, I had to do the 9 windows, the Tiger Woods 9 windows, the high, the low, the cut,
Mm-hmm.
the draw, the mediums, all that stuff. I want to work all those shots out with my irons, and then I blast 5 drivers, 5 3-woods, and I'm good. If I only blast 4 drivers, I can't live with it. I got to do 5. I don't know why it has to be an odd number, but it has to be an odd number. I won't stop on an even. Then probably the biggest one that's just so bizarre. My one of my good friends, he calls me Rain Man, and I didn't really understand that until I actually saw the movie for the first time. But we were in Bend, Oregon, for the Club Pro several years ago, and we went to Trader Joe's because we wanted to get food. We rented a house and everything, and he said, "Here, we'll get some stuff for the morning. We'll get breakfast." And I was like, "Well, do they have log cabin syrup?" He said, "No, this is Trader Joe's. They don't have log cabin syrup. What is log cabin syrup?" And I was like, "I have to have log cabin syrup. I can't not have that." So he goes to the shelf and he pulls this, pure maple syrup. He goes, "Here, this is pure." And I was like, "Nope, I won't do it." We drove around 30 minutes, Bend, Oregon, trying to find a grocery store that had log cabin syrup because I refused to have any other syrup other than log cabin. So, you know, and he always makes fun of me because I was like, "No, you have to put the syrup on the pancakes or waffles first, then cut it. It doesn't work if you cut them, then put it on." And that's when he started calling me Rain Man. So,
Okay. Is it
and that
always
lives with me to
waffles
this day.
Is it always waffles or pancakes before competition?
No, sometimes it could be like bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches.
Okay.
Something like that. I like to eat something heavy because I don't eat a lot during a round, which is some people don't view that as a good thing, but I more or less just kind of have, just health bars during the round. I don't really eat too much. So, and most of my tournaments now, they're a bit of a drive away. So I try to eat something heavy so that by the time I get to the golf course and I tee it up, I still don't feel hungry. So that's like kind of the goal. So, but those are some of the weird quirks that stick with me to this day.
Yeah, we say it all the time. Golfers are quirky by nature, and I'm sure there's other things on the course that like you don't necessarily realize. It's just things that you do. Like when we had Stu Hagestad on, he's like, "Well, they're not quirks; they're just habits. This is what I do." And like they it is true. They're just things that we do innately that we don't necessarily think about, like how we mark our ball or how we put a ball marker on the green when we're marking our ball, that kind of stuff. It all gets very interesting. So,
100%.
yeah,
I mean, I use the same ball marker every time, and it's a Canoe ball marker. I've used it since I almost won the state open in Knickerbocker. I lost in a playoff to Mark Costanza, but I was 3 over par for the first 9 holes and then got to 10 under par for the tournament. And then Mark makes a 10-footer to tie me as the last group. But ever since then, that's when I started using a Canoe ball marker, white side up. And every time, like if
there
I
you
can't
go.
play without that. So I know the feeling.
Oh, it's good stuff. Well, Tony, appreciate you coming on. This has been great. I know Mike's looking forward to going back to Forsgate to see you this year. I'm looking forward to getting the chance to talk with you a little more. Like I said pre-show, I got to watch you give that lesson, and that was great. But looking forward to interacting with you a little more out there, and best of luck at the PGA this year.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And we hope to have you out there again this summer.
For sure. You take care.
Thanks, guys.